what types of workouts did you first start with?
A lot of upper body. You know how most guys are. They skip leg day. I was immediately humbled. Thank God I had him before I went to the meet. Now I knew what was going on.
People talking about your weight and things like that?
You know, being a bigger kid, you always get bullied. Oh, you fat boy, fat boy. I hated that. I was fat, but I could fight.
Whoa! Who knew I would make it this far? They hated, they never believed me. Yeah, I would never drop the ball. I know I make it look easy. Yeah. Mayweather with the defense. I don't care what a critic got to say, I got them picking up the pieces. That mean you really playing with your life, I'm about to come and run it all back. I'm the new era, about to snap back. You ain't fitting for it, cause you all cap like. Hold up, I shoot my shot, wait, hold up. I'm really about to run this, go up. You know it's all net when it go up.
Is the Outlaw Apostle Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Neff. I'm the fucking guy, and our guest today on our, we try to do some more of these interviews, but it's not easy. But I'm glad to get this man because I can also say he's a friend. Met him a few years ago, and I think you all know my thing is fitness and being in the gym. And man, this is going to be great. We welcome. His Instagram, it's TD Smash. Thomas Davis joins us. TD, what's going on, brother? How are you?
What's up, big man? Doing good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right, man. I'm living here in paradise. You got to come visit. You're welcome to come anytime. We'll take care of you.
I need to. It's like we had a blizzard last week, bro, and it's still cold out here. It's crazy.
Yeah, well, it was like 58 last night, and I was cold.
I would take your 58 over the 19 degrees I had this morning.
Yeah, yes, you would. It's blue skies and sun, and people are still happy getting that vitamin D, and it's just really cool, man.
Just rub it in.
But so that people know, you are a power lifter, monster strength. You have you're a master at discipline too, and mindset. You have to be able to achieve the things that you've achieved. And, I do encourage it. Instagram is pretty much your number. Is Instagram your number one?
Yeah, Instagram's where I do mainly most of my stuff. I get on TikTok here and there, but that's, here and there.
Yeah, TikTok has been a bitch, to be honest.
Yeah, it's weird, man. It's definitely different.
Yeah, they used to be good, but they just censor and do stuff where Instagram has gotten better. Facebook has even gotten better with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, Facebook's all right, even though Meta takes forever to pay you. But, my goodness. But yeah, right? I've been better on just on my Instagram and then, here and there. I do TikTok just for like informational things. If I need to like find some recipe for meal prep or like, what can I eat healthy at McDonald's today? Like, I actually TikTok for some random stuff.
So let's start with this. Who was TD Smash before you were TD Smash? Who was Thomas Davis?
This a pudgy kid from Indiana who loved to watch wrestling. In particular, WWF, when it was the F back then, when we had Stone Cold and all the good guys back then. And oh man, that was me, man. I was in love with wrestling. I was a basketball fan. I thought I was gonna play basketball, but unfortunately, weight gain hindered that dream for me. So football became the fashion, and from football, I got into lifting, and I did track as well. I went to college for track for 1 year, and then I just kind of took off with powerlifting, and that's been my thing. So
yeah,
that's me.
So early sports was football. How early did you start football?
I did football in middle school. Started in middle school, and I noticed very quickly that I like to hit people like in the past. I mean, I always I grew up fighting, but like getting to actually put your full body into somebody else's body is like pretty exhilarating. I like to do that, so that was fun.
Yeah. What about any early, mentors or family, that helped you along the way?
Oh man, I had a lot of great people come in my life. My dad passed when I was like 7, so my mom always like looked for me to have a mentor. So I was in a mentoring program. I had this older gentleman named Roland Kelly, this little short leprechaun of a man. He was a very pivotal person in my younger years, man. He would come and eat lunch with me when I was a kid, and he passed right before I was going to go into high school. But I mean, like his impact was big for me. My uncle James, who when I would act bad here with my mom, she would call my Uncle James, and he would take me to his house, and he would do this boot camp thing with me because he was in the service, and he'd make me do push-ups and all this crazy stuff, and I would cry and cry because I was so fat and out of shape, and I was being bad in school, so that was his way of taking it out on me. But I mean, it worked now, so But I've had quite a few mentors in my day, man. I appreciate every single one that's, even this is, a little bit of advice, you appreciate that. So,
Yeah, yeah. So was part of the acting out as a youth, did that have to do with anything with being bullied or, people talking about your weight and things like that?
that was, there was two main things. Being a bigger kid, you always get bullied, oh, hey, fat boy, I hated that, hey, I was fat, but I could fight. So that, I'd back it up. But then also too, I was angry kid, man, because, I just lost my dad. So, I didn't know how to process that. And so, I processed it through these, and obviously that wasn't the best way to do that, but I mean, that's how I knew how. And I was just, I became an angry child because of that. And as an adult, I realized that. But thankfully, I kind of outgrew it, with time and a lot of prayer. So,
Yeah, it takes somebody praying for us in our life, I
yes.
think, and we that we may not know it then, but we eventually see it. So
Mhm.
when the like the lifting that started at with the football, is that when the lifting started, or did it?
So around that time, yes, I kind of did a little bit before then because we had a local YMCA. People don't even know. Little kids don't know what YMCA's are, but we had a YMCA here, and they actually just demolished ours like about a few months ago. And I would play basketball there when I was young in elementary school, and I would see these big guys coming out of this room, like what are they doing in there? And then come to find out, that's where I learned to like see these guys like they're training, they're huge. Like these guys are they're using these big old weights. Like what? Like these guys are animals. And then obviously for me, I always wanted to be big and strong because I used to watch wrestling all the time. So I wanted to be like as big as Undertaker and Kane and Rock. Those guys, those guys I looked up to. I mean, still to this day, like I mean, those guys are physical specimens. Yeah, I think, and now that I know more about the business, like you know, those guys on the road, all the time, and having to throw each
Unbelievable.
other around and train, crazy.
Yeah, it's like, for the main guys, it's like 300 days a year that they're on
300
the
days a
road.
year.
It's a lot. And I always said, yeah, it may be choreographed, but when you're flipping off the top of the rope, people actually do get really injured. The Rock, you mentioned The Rock, he broke like his femur, and he had to say it was a big fight, a big payday for everyone. And about 10 minutes in, he could have kind of tapped out and said he didn't want to go any longer, but he continued just because of everybody else, because everybody else kind of earns a paycheck based off what he did. But yeah, I mean, it was a serious, serious fucking injury that
Yeah,
they have
and
to
they
deal with.
don't care. They go through it.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
go
for
through
sure.
it, man. It's just like, whoo.
Yeah, for sure they do. So when did you really think, um, the powerlifting? I mean, I do more, bodybuilding style of weight training. When I first weight trained, in my early 20s, because in my school, all I had, I didn't go to a Y. We didn't have a Y. I was in a small little shit town, 2,200 people. My dad had bought some Sears equipment. The kind
Okay,
that these weren't the
cheers.
yeah these weren't the ones that you filled with sand, but they were similar to it. You
Right.
had these plastic things, and you had a bench and a leg extension and a pulley. That's it.
Yeah.
That's what was on there. And then at school, we had one machine that had 4 spots around it. None of them were for legs. And
Uh-huh.
we just went and like nobody knew shit. That happened after me, later in the later 90s when school started getting all these weight rooms and wrestling rooms. I'm like, man, where the fuck was that shit for me? But
Right.
anyways, I did in my early 20s. I concentrated on the basics, which was, deadlifts, bench, and squats. And then I did the other stuff alongside that. How did your programming first work? What types of workouts did you first start with?
Honestly, it was just a lot of, and a lot of upper body because a lot of how most guys are, they skip leg day. Now I definitely skip leg day a lot, and we did a lot. As far as younger, before high school. Then when I got into high school is when I started to squat. We didn't deadlift when I was coming up in high school, but or we didn't clean really either. But you learn to squat a little bit, the leg press, all these things. So it kind of all came about more in high school. But I also like the style of lifting for me was because I just was the strongest person in the gym at a certain point. It took me a little while. I remember, one of the seniors when I was a freshman, like, yo, you're not gonna bench 225, like just talking crazy to me. And I'm like, oh, wow. And then, by the time I'm a junior, I had the record and I was benching 405. So, as a junior, I thought that was pretty dope. I was like, I elevated that, and I don't think anybody's broken my record yet, but I graduated benching like 465. But it was
Wow.
also the bouncing the chest and the butt coming off. But I mean, I got it, but, that's what we were on back then. And yeah, that's kind of where it started with that. Just knowing that I was the strongest, like it wasn't all about being the pretty muscle, but it was being like, okay, who's gonna move the most weight that day?
So what about then? When did powerlifting become the lane that you knew was the lane for you that you'd
Um,
concentrate on?
so I growing up, I had a lot of knee problems, and I would go see an orthopedic doctor. I had what was called Osgood Schlatter disease, so my knees would always hurt from like this growing pains. And I went to this office and I seen this guy. There was a picture of this guy with a whole bunch of like weight on the bar, and I'm like what is this guy? Who is this? And then I found out this is a gentleman named George. They called him Big George around here, and he was an equipped lifter, and he was benching like 700 pounds. And back then, equipped lifting, as you know too, like it wasn't as extreme. So like the material wasn't as like crazy. So like to me, that was impressive. Like that was crazy. Like 700 pounds even with the shirts is nuts. Like back then. Now, no, I don't. If I hurt your feelings by saying that, I don't care. But um, it was just like, man, like who is this guy? And then like people actually compete in this. And then when I found out about that, I'm like, oh wow. And later in life, I end up actually getting to train with him, and he helped me through a lot too. And rest in peace to him. He ended up passing away, but I mean, like seeing his picture in the office, like just hung up there, like I want to do that. I want to be able to lift that weight. Like the bar was just bending, like to see the bar bending with all that weight on there, like all those 45s. It's like what, like 745s on each side, like and some change. Come on, that's crazy.
So when did you first compete? Tell me a little bit about what your first meet was like.
My goodness, my first meet, it was a meet here in town. It's local, and it was one of those old school federations. And I'll tell you the story. There was a gentleman. His name was Tony Horvath, and there was this older white guy. He looks like an older version of Stone Cold Steve Austin. Man, he has this all his Ohio State stuff because he's a Buckeyes fan. And I'm in there lifting weights. This is me fresh out of high school, and he comes up to me and said, "Hey, you're pretty strong, kid. Are you doing the competition here in town?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah. I heard about it. I'm gonna sign up, and this will be my first one." He said, "Oh, you ever done a meet before?" And I was like, "No, I never done one before, but I think I'll be okay." Being cocky because I thought I was the shit and whatnot. So he's like, "Well, just there's rules to it, and you got to be able to do certain things." And so we're going through the motions. He's like, so I'm gonna, I had 400 pounds on the bar at this time, and he said, okay, well, I want you to pause it on your chest, and then when I tell you to press it, you press it. That's how it goes in the meat. And I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm not worried about that. It shouldn't be a problem. Man, I try to press that off of a pause, that it didn't move, but like maybe this much off my chest, and I was immediately humbled, So thank God I had him before I went to the meet. Now I knew what was going on, so I did my first meet. I think I did like just maybe a little over 300 pounds or something like that in my first meet, and from there I caught the what they call the iron bug, man, and I got bit by it, and it was over with.
And how old were you at that time that you
I'd
for first
say
competition?
18, 19.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. And then you just you just decided on certain competitions, federations, and you
Yeah,
train for specific meets?
just as long as they were not too far away, I did. I started doing
Mhm.
more, and then started getting better. I started getting really good. But then I also was doing track at the time as well. Um, I kind of, I don't know how I would say, I kind of redshirted my freshman year of college for track. Even though I was going to a different school, I also was allowed to go practice with the school I was going to, because I was going to a community college before I went to the actual NAIA college, and um, so I was in between doing powerlifting and track, and thank God I did. Even though people would say that was crazy because I was doing, double the work. But I mean, I learned a lot from my track coaches and being very explosive, and I was able to take those traits and put them into powerlifting. And so from there, and that's when it really took off, especially after college. Because I did 1 year. In the actual other school. So I had 2 years of college, 1 year actually throwing for the school. And I went to NAIA nationals, and I wasn't, school wasn't my thing. I just wasn't a school person, and I wanted to just work. And once I got the hang of it, and I just focused on powerlifting after the track. That's when things just took off for me.
Yeah. Well, even though the school wasn't your thing, it still came out as part of your journey and a beneficial part of your journey that you were able to take parts of it and still benefit from for what your real love was.
Right. Yeah, and I benefited a lot. So it was cool. I guess I had two great coaches. One coach, Colin Veldman, he was a track star and for Oregon, University of Oregon, and then we had another. And this is I always give kudos to my female athletes, man. Becky Bryce, she was an alternate for the Olympics. I think for Athens, and when I tell you, man, she made me work like no other too, man. And that's who I actually went to NAIs with the nationals. I qualified under her, and man, like I had a different respect. That lady made us work. Like she was just lady. She's stout. You can tell she can throw something, man. And she put it in us, man. The practices were hard, but I mean, listen, yeah, I learned a lot from her. It was great. I had the experience to take that and to put it into something else. So it was cool.
What about other lifts, or did you just focus on the benching?
Yeah, for a while I was just bench. I didn't start doing full meat stuff until super late in my career. I mean, I would train legs, but I didn't like compete in it. I would,
Mhm.
you know, get my once a week leg day here, being lazy. Instead of the two or three that you should be doing. And I just, I noticed I'm like, I got some more power elsewhere, and it wouldn't help to develop the legs because I didn't want to, have the big old top with the little bitty legs. So we had to work on those legs. And
Well, you're just all big.
yeah, now I am. Yeah,
Yeah,
now I got
you
it. I got quads for days now. It's crazy.
yeah,
But
like
back
I've
then,
I've
like,
stood next to you guys, and you guys, I'm like this, and you guys,
but I
that's
mean,
it.
it's crazy. Like I didn't do any competitions that were full meet until super later. But I mean, I went to when I started getting really good. I was through the USA powerlifting, so I was drug tested and stuff, and won every single national I went to and every single world title I've won. My first one in Africa, they tried to take away because of blood pressure medication, but because it was a diuretic, but that kind of it was resolved in a way, but I don't care if that wasn't going to make me bench no more. I needed that for my heart. So, and all I had to do was take a form, and from there on, I was fine. But it was crazy. Like, man, I literally just benched, but then I just was really good at it, man. This is what I was. So
Which meet was your first, would you say, like, biggest one that was the most meaningful, which was like your first really big win that that just like what you're talking about now with the, you're competing against the best of the best. What was your first big one?
I say my first big one was my first world meet. That was in South Africa. The year prior, I was dating a girl right after college, and we were in love, blah blah blah. But she also had a son at the time, and the dad wasn't around, so I was dad pretty much, and he had ended up passing away. He had drowned, and the boy to the son, and so like that like kind of really screwed me up for a while, man, um, and then 3 weeks later, George, the one I seen on the picture, he passed away. Like 3 or 4 weeks after he passed away, so I had like two really big back-to-back losses, and I ended up qualifying for nationals that year, so a couple months afterwards, and I dedicated my first world uh, championship to them. So the following year, I went to Africa. It was in May, so almost a year after he had passed. I dedicated it to both of them, and that was like the biggest thing. And I broke a world record there too, and it was just cool because I cried right afterwards. There's a lot of emotions because I had this little man's picture
Yeah.
before I went up there, and I smoked a 622 bench. Like I knew I was winning it, just because at the warm ups you see everybody warming up, and like so the guy who was second, his last warm up wasn't even like my opener. Like it was a big gap between first and second. Let's just put it that way. And that's how I liked it to be. I trained hard. So and it was just cool because in South Africa, like I didn't know nobody out there, but there's these local kids around from like a school or something, and like they were in there cheering for me too. And I'm like, these little kids don't even know who I am, and they're like cheering for me, bro. Like it was just like something beautiful. Like it was something out of a movie, man. And I that was so memorable for me. And I say probably the second one. It was my last meet, and when I broke the all-time full bench record, which was at 716, I benched because nobody else has benched that much in a full meet ever. So and that moment was just like I got it. I got something I can. I didn't think I was going to end my career, but that was something I'm like, cool. If something ever happened to me after this, I did something dope. Like this was it right here. Like that moment right there. Once I smoked that 716, man, and you couldn't tell me nothing that day, man. That was it.
Well, that's not the top 1%. It's the top 0.0000001%. Because at that point,
Yeah.
you're just it. You're the man at
Yeah,
that
that's
point.
how I felt. That's literally
Yeah.
how I felt. That record had been standing for over 20 some years. And that person that broke that record did what we call a, a piggyback, I'd say. So what he did, he squatted 135, benched is 700, and then deadlifted 135. So he didn't really compete in the other two. He just did it. He token lift those two for that, so we can have that record. But I squatted 800 pounds and I pulled 903, even though they didn't give it to me, which was stupid. But I pulled 903, and I pulled that 903 beltless too. So
That's huge.
yeah, that was a crazy crazy day, man, for me. So I was able to really showcase my strength around the world, man. It was a beautiful thing.
Yeah, that for sure. When did you realize that what you were doing was also going to be something that could inspire um, kids and have an effect on kids, and that you could have an influence? Because I know you care about kids deeply.
Oh, dude, yeah, I love the kids, man. I mean, definitely when I was in Africa, when I seen those kids cheering me on, because they were even asking me for like my stuff. One of the little girls asked me for my beats headphones. I'm like, baby, I love you, but I can't give you my beats. I gotta fly back home. But you know, just and like I have like kids like just look at me like, oh my god, he's so big, and like people like around here will tell kids like, oh, do you know who that is? And I'm not one to like talk about myself. I just don't. I don't like unless we're doing like this where we actually you're asking me questions, but like I don't like to talk about myself. But people, oh, he's like one of the strongest people in the world, and it's like it's cool to hear that, and little kids like, oh my god, like you're huge, and like even at the Arnold too, like I've had kids come up to me like, oh my god, I watch your YouTube, I've watched your videos. I'm like, dude, you're like a kid. Like that's cool. Like that's inspiring to me. Like and even like older people too. Like people that are older than me, like, oh my god, bro, you're just such an inspiration. You made me want to go back to the gym. And I'm just like, damn, like this is definitely you learn when you do things and you do them gracefully and you do them out of fun and you do them with nothing but love that is bigger than you. And I think that's like something that people have to learn to take away. Like, don't always focus on yourself. Like, like when you're doing things, know that it's actually bigger than you, and you're in the spotlight and you're inspiring people. So that's something I love about that.
So, you're not built by like normal people. You don't train like, so your training can't be normal. Most people are going in like you're doing 8 to 15 reps or something like that, and you're doing reps and you're trying to do progressive overload. Tell me more about specifically training to be for your training really to have a single great rep and what it's like in doing that and how's that different?
I tell people this, like, and any powerlifter will tell you, every little detail matters. So like you're working everything from the bottoms of your feet to your hands, and obviously a lot of it's a mental game too. You have to be mentally prepared to do whatever you have to do in the gym that day and outside the gym too. As you know, that's very important. Whether it's your eating, your supplements, or whatever you're doing, everything has to come into line with your training. So um I mean, people don't understand the amounts of the volume that you have to do to have your muscles, conditioned to take the bareness of the hypertrophy for the strength. There's steps to that. So you have to learn, like, okay, cool, like now that you're done with this you're done with the strength cycle, you take a little bit of a rest, and now we're going a bunch of reps. We're doing sets of 10 plus, 15 plus, and you're trying to do the time under tension thing because you're trying to build the muscles and the tendons. Everything needs to be recruited to get that. So now when we want to add a little bit more and do some hypertrophy work, okay, cool. Now we can add a little bit of let's say 5 by 5, now we have some weight to play around with. And now we work on like triples, doubles, and then the singles. There's steps to it. And, you know, everything has to be particular. You have to work every body part. You can't just, okay, well, I'm going to do, a little bit of these triceps and I'm going to do them one way. When you're benching, you got to do your triceps every single way you can, overhead, dumbbells, isolation, anything you can to get that muscle going so it can fire correctly.
When did nutrition enter your, I mean, because I'm just guessing, you tell me if I'm wrong, the lifting was the thing. But at
Mhm.
some point, and when you're young, you can eat a lot differently. But at some point, you realize that if you wanted to be the best, something outside of the gym, you needed to focus on was the nutrition or what you were eating. And so, tell me a little bit about that and that transition there and what you did.
I learned at a very young age, but then again, knowledge doesn't always mean that you're doing it. So for me, being young, I'm always, partying and going to bars here and there, drinking, and to cure the hangovers, you're eating the cheeseburgers and all this stuff. And, so I didn't always take it seriously, but when I started taking it seriously is when I started to notice the biggest changes. And this is when I was doing full meets. And I got with this lady named Sheb, who I'm still dealing with. And Sheb, she's been doing all my nutrition, and we track everything, and like I learned so much from her, like the calorie deficits and like how much protein I need to be intaking and this, that, and the third. And if I could be completely raw, my whole premise back then was because of all the negative things you hear about PEDs. I was like, I'd rather just get fatter and worry about the body fat to move the weight than to be on PEDs and quote unquote not harm my body as much. Which now that I know more about PEDs, um, I could have taken a different approach. And that's just me being real. But then again, I
Well,
was
that's
drug
real
free for a
shit,
long
man. That's
time.
true.
And that's just me being raw, being real, because I can't do nothing else but be raw and real. But I think that I could have taken a different approach and been a little bit more healthier. Because you look back at videos of me competing, I was very big. Like I was, super super big, and after my last meet, it was probably when I was in one of the best shapes of my life, and at that point, as far as powerlifting. But again, there was always a negative stigma because people don't do research on PEDs and they don't they listen to Joe Schmo or these people that have never actually again they don't do the research. And I didn't do research. I listened to people, and again now I know the difference. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, it's becoming a little bit better because we can have conversations about it now because
Mhm.
of testosterone replacement therapy but doing more than that, and it's something I do and I'm very open about it. I do TRT and I also do cycles. It's just part of what I've done over 17 years, and you think I've always kind of said the negatives about it are over exaggerated, and then the positives are over exaggerated because you have that other side of the group that acts like if you are doing that, well, it's doing all the work, and it's just not that the case.
That's
It just
not the
helps
case.
you do more work. You're
That helps
doing
you do
more work.
more work. You can
Yes,
recover better. Your
yes.
sleep's better. Like a lot of things become better for you. Again, it's because people listen to other people. And I think
Mhm.
that's and I don't want to get into other things, but I think that's the biggest problem in our country nowadays. People just listen to, Joe Blow on Facebook because Joe Blow said it was true, so we're gonna believe him. And I think that's a big problem nowadays. Um, it's unfortunate, but at the same time, well, we know what's up, and I'm glad there's more research on these things. Like, look at the things that peptides are doing now for people. Even like we don't have to go that far. We can look at just stem cells like research. Like these people are going, to having to go to other countries to get the proper doses of stem cells, but guess what? They come back way stronger and way better. Those back injuries that they were supposed to have are gone. The shoulder injuries are gone. Like that's why you see, and it's not even uncommon. A lot of NFL players, when they have a major injury, some of them are, oh, well, he's in this country for a couple weeks. I wonder why he's out there. We know he's doing what he's supposed to do.
They're getting paid millions of dollars. We want those dudes on the field, man. I just don't
Yes.
understand why you don't want people healing properly. There was a few years ago, the story I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but it was at least 3 years ago. There was an Atlanta Falcon wide receiver that they were drugging up all season for his foot. And actually, at the end of the season, they found out that it was slightly, he had some type of fracture, and he played on that versus, you and I know about these healing peptides like BPC 157 and TB 500. I've never seen anybody have even a single side effect ever from those. And if they're done right, it's about a 95% success rate, and they only keep getting more popular and more popular every year by word of mouth. But then I've talked to doctors or oh, we don't do that, or you don't. What do you mean you don't fucking do that? Like,
Well, it's
why
because
would
they
you
don't get
not want?
paid from it. That's why.
Yeah,
That's
but
why.
even if you need the surgery, you need the surgery. But after the surgery, do you want to heal in 9 months or do you want to heal in 4 or 5 months? That's the difference. And some of us want to get back in the game. We don't want a 9 month sideline kind of a deal. And I love that you mentioned, the stem cells. Tony Robbins, he's famous, and he had a shoulder issue. He was supposed to get surgery, rotator cuff, and he went to Panama, I believe, for the stem cells. And it was like 3 days. 3 days is what it took, and for him, and he didn't need surgery, and it was healed. That's the kind of shit we need to be going to, right?
That's what needs to be funded right
Yes.
now. It needs to be accepted, and that's the problem. It's not talked
Yeah.
about. Again, people they talk. They don't want to do the research, man. They need to do the research. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, and the other problem with it you mentioned as well is there's a lot of information out there now that we never had before, but what comes with that is a lot of bad information. And you have to know how to sift through that, and that's what I try to share on the podcast or different things that I do is these are the people that you need to listen to. When I talk about peptides, I mentioned Dr. William Seats. He's like the godfather of peptides. Watch videos on him. You learn everything you need to know about peptides. I don't think anyone has done more work than he does and shares. But yeah, that kind of stuff. I'm glad you were able to mention that. What were your biggest setbacks over your career as far as, having an injury or something like that you can share?
Yeah, actually, it was right after my last meet. I found out that I had tore my patellar tendon after my meet, but we went back because I've always had knee pain for like a year straight before my meet, and I was like, why am I having this knee pain? And it turns out my patellar tendon was like 75% torn.
Oh
And
wow.
I got an MRI like 2 weeks after my last meet, and he was like, if you had taken another big squat, you probably would have completely ruptured it. I'm thinking it's just tendonitis. Um, I had been training. I trained with Akon a year prior, and I was actually the most I've ever squatted. Period was with him, and I was warming up, and I must have just been super gilly and happy because I'm training with Ed Cohen, greatest powerlifter of all time. Shout out to Ed. And I am warming up like 700, and I come down, and I sank. And when I sank down, like I had a big pop in my knee, and like I have a video of it, and I kind of paused it on the bottom, like with 700, like what is this like feeling? And I squatted it back up, and I just had the sensation in my knee. And my doctor was like, when you had that big squat, that's when you tore it the first time. And it just kept tearing and tearing. And we had counted. I had squatted 800 over 800 pounds, like 6 or 7 times after that. Just like when in training, there was one time I doubled 800, and I was gonna go for a triple, but my knee started to kind of hurt. I was like, I'll straight. I had more gas in my quads and everything, but I just whatever. So I had surgery uh, in November of, I think, was it 22? I want to say, I forget. I think it's 22. And that was horrible. That was a horrible surgery. But I had a good doctor. I think with Dr. Radigan. He does a lot of guys from Notre Dame football team. He does their surgeries and whatnot. And 6 months later, I'm Larson pressing 600 pounds with the Buffalo bar. The Buffalo bar is the one that's kind of like that. So, me being a meathead and trying to get back, and I'm like, well, let's work on the upper body. And I wasn't just realizing how much upper body I was doing at the time. Because obviously I wasn't doing a lot of legs. I was, but then I wasn't because I was still kind of timid. And so I Larson pressed 600. I got it the first time and I racked it, and I'm like, my foot kind of moved. So let me do it again. And if Larson press, if you don't know, Larson press is your feet are completely out. So my feet are in the air, perpendicular to the ground. And so I go down to press for the second time, and as soon as I got a little off my chest, just poof, the pack just rolled up, and I instantly knew.
Oof.
I felt it. It didn't hurt. It hurt my ego more than anything. Because I'm like, I didn't have to go for the second time. I like, the first one was fine, but me being a perfectionist, I wanted to do it
Right.
again and do it right. And so those two injuries kind of set me back. However, I did come back fine, and I was good. But I felt like, for me, I'm glad it happened because now I'm focusing more on my longevity health. And I got a 5-year-old son, man, and I don't want to die before any of his like super big moments, man. You see guys my size that just dead at,
Hmm.
50, 60, I want to live on. I want to see my grandkids, So, my goal now is to be
Yeah.
healthy for, not just myself, but like my family. So,
Yeah, I just said that earlier today on my podcast. Do you want to, be, if you're a 40-year-old, some dad, and you got a 12-year-old daughter, you want to be there to walk her down the aisle, or you want it to be stepdad that walks
right.
her down the aisle because you're not there because you had a
That,
heart attack or
that
something,
hits you differently when
happening.
the daughter walking down
And,
the aisle. That hits you different. Yes.
yeah, it's hard to hear. But I've told
Yeah.
people that it smacks them upside the head. Like, I'm not trying to be a dick. I'm trying to give you, real world shit and what can happen. And I've seen that transformation in you in the last year and a half and stuff, and that your focus on that. And man, I can't wish you nothing but the best for that. And we got to meet um, back the first time because of Brandon Copeland and his association with CT Fletcher and going out to Iron Wars. Iron Wars is a different animal. So let's talk about that animal for a minute, man. Because the thing about that that's so good is nothing matters, man. It doesn't matter your size, your age, nothing. You just think you're a badass motherfucker. You come in and you just do it. And so when did you first, or how did that relationship develop with CT Fletcher and doing the
Shout
whole
out
Iron
to
Wars thing?
Leroy Walker, man. He was the one who actually sent CT some of my stuff before, and that's how CT got in touch with me on via Instagram, and he invited me out to my first Iron Wars, and from there, man, we just, that's pops, man. We text here and there every once in a while, and I love the guy to death. He's been an inspiration to me. It's weird, like they say, don't meet your heroes, but I'm glad I met that one. He's definitely one of the ones you know, and you know him. You've been around him. He is one hell of a guy, man. He's got one hell of a story too. Like he's been on me about my health because of the things that he's went through, and with his story, like thank you, pops, because I don't want to have to go through what he's been through.
Yeah, for sure. That was great. So what was your biggest experience or lift or, at doing that
Man, I think
at
I did
Iron Wars?
I do like a 650 or 660 bench out there. And I did it in my overalls too. Yeah, I had my overalls on, man. I'm an Indiana boy, bro. I got overalls. I got like 4 pairs of overalls, man. So I did it in my overalls and had to
That
show
is
show 'em
so
what I'm
great.
about. But because I'm in South Bend, so it's a city. But
That's
you
great.
go 30 miles that way, and you got horse and buggy. It's crazy. We got Amish out here, man. That's the real thing. And shout out to the Amish because they have
Yeah.
some bakeries out here, bro. So you ever come out here, I'm gonna show you something, man. They got some stuff out here.
Yeah, that used to be, we were poor. So vacation for us was going one day to Amish country and eating at an Amish restaurant that was family style. And then we'd go to
Yes,
the place
yeah,
that had the cheese and you get to
yeah.
see them make the
You know what I'm talking
cheese and
about.
stuff. And that was it. Yeah, I know
Yeah.
exactly. We had that in Ohio. Yeah, for sure. That was a big deal. Mental, I mean, you have to have some type of really mental toughness. What struggles, did you have mentally going through these processes that you've been through, and how did that shape you into the person you are
Man,
today?
I've been through my ups and downs with mental health, and it's just and it's something that comes and goes. I think everybody goes through it, but it's kind of quote unquote cliche for men to talk about it because we're quote unquote supposed to be the strong ones. But in order to be strong, you got to be mentally strong too. So it's okay to feel these feelings, and knowing that depression is real. As a man, you have a big responsibility. You're supposed to be the provider, and you have to, if you have kids, you got to be a father, and then it's we have our things too. Just like we have to respect women when they go through their things. Like men need to learn amongst men to respect each other when we go through our. So you have to have those guys like and my boy Julius, and Brandon, those guys, man, especially Julius. Me and Julius are real close, and he's been there for me, man. And that's been a lot of dark things. I just my mom's death anniversary is coming up here on the 10th, man, and he's one of the first ones to come up here to visit me after she passed. And actually Brandon did too. He also came as well, and they've been there for me, man. And you just you get through that with wanting to get through it first of all. A lot of people kind of just give up. You gotta want to get out of that slump. And I get it. It's easy to give up, but you gotta want to get out of it. And also having a good, strong, like solid friend group, man. You gotta have that.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's more recent, and I think you hit it right on the nail, right on the head. That men, we just sucked at talking about that for so long, and we need people, especially people that you normally see as you see them physically strong, and you just think they're just strong. Period. But it's we all go through those same struggles, and to be able to share that now, and look, it doesn't make you less of a
Yeah.
man because every man's going to go through this.
Well, yeah,
It's
think,
part of
man,
our
like, and I
process.
know you can relate to this. Think about the most extreme guys you know in the gym. Those
Yeah.
guys that are just like extreme. Like, where do you get the mental capacity to be able to just go in there and go completely nuts? Like, it's just there's something in there that's making you do that, and it's probably some trauma, and like you're trying to get away from that in some way. Like, these guys talk about. I don't know if you know about the guys from like Diamond Gym out there in Jersey. Those guys that are, they're going crazy right now on internet shots. Those guys, but people talk about them. Oh, these guys don't have good form, and they're just doing these crazy lifts. But you know what, man? The one that's running the show is a firefighter. They call him Unk. Shout out to Unk, man. And I love their philosophy, man. Like they may not live the way I do, but they're making people push past their limits, and that's the whole purpose. Like this man's a whole firefighter. He can't get tired and worry about having a water break when he's got to go save babies in a fire. He's in Jersey, so that's like a lot of stuff's going on out there. He can't sit here and like, oh, let me just take off this set, let me not, let me just slack off. No, he's got to save lives. You got to think of the trauma of that person that's doing these crazy lifts and crazy things and going there every day and just giving it their all. There's something behind that, and I think that's a beautiful thing that people can use the gym as that outlet. But don't let that be your only outlet either. And I'm big on that. Learn to talk with your friends. I got a good friend group, that I can talk to, and if I need something, I know they're there.
Yeah. That 5-person circle. Who you hang with is everything. Let me ask you this as we get closer to wrapping up. Is there what don't you like that you see in the health and wellness or fitness right now, that you just don't like to see as far as either types of lifts or things that are being taught, or what's your kind of
Oh, I'll
perspective
tell
on
you,
that?
one of my biggest pet peeves is people that are trying to coach people and you have no experience in that certain realm. I get like people having degrees, but I mean, I went to school for kinesiology for that 1 year, and I mean, I know more than most of the people that have a degree in that stuff. I'm gonna be, I actually have the experience, not just because of what I did, but the people I've talked to. You can have a degree in that, and that's cool, but go beyond that, and don't think that just because you have that degree that you know everything about. Training people and this, that, and the third. Go experience things. Go reach out to maybe like a bodybuilder or somebody that actually has miles in a sport or miles in this, like I've a lot of clients that are weight loss clients, and there's always a stigma. Oh, you shouldn't take weight loss advice from somebody that's big. I've learned how to lose weight all my life. I've lost it and gained it, lost it. I know how to actually do this. And this is the guy that's been skinny all his damn life, and had a 6-pack since he was, a toddler. I actually know how to get through the weight. I've done
Yeah.
it in many ways for competitions and whatnot. So there's times I would try to drop a little bit of weight, and I knew how to do it correctly. But I also had to go through the learning from my nutritionist and actually experiencing it myself. experience things. And also too, I think a lot of people put too much emphasis, and I kind of get it because there's a lot of money in it, but there's so much emphasis just on the social media aspect of things that I don't think a lot of these people know how to work hard nowadays, man, and just learn to enjoy the process, and like you don't have to stop to record everything. Like sit there and just enjoy like what you're doing at the moment. And I get like, you got people that record blah blah blah, but when you don't have those sessions where you're taking your time and focusing on what you got going on, you're taking away the love and the true meaning of what we're doing here in the gym, and outside the gym too. You know, people that just enjoy cooking. You know what I mean? And like, if you're sitting there recording every single bit of it, you're not really going to enjoy it as much. You're not going to enjoy that process. So those are my two big takeaways. But I mean, it's cool to see some of the things that these kids are doing nowadays. It's weird that I'm saying kids. I'm only 33, but they're kids now. These kids like 18, 19. They're vloggers making all this money and doing this. But I mean, some of these kids doing some pretty awesome things. But again, enjoy the process of what and learn to know why you're doing what you're doing.
That's awesome stuff. What can you share that you think that you'd like people to know about you, but maybe they don't know, or that you don't traditionally share on videos or the social media you do? That just share something about yourself that people don't know that makes you who you
I
are.
think one of the biggest things, and it's kind of common known, but not really. But I'll just put it out there, man. Like I've done all these cool things, met all these cool people. You know, I, it's seen all these cool places, man. Been around the world. But my biggest accomplishment is being a dad, dude. Like that's like the coolest thing ever. Like I would give it all up for my son. Like I just love it. Being a dad is the coolest thing ever. I have literally a part of me growing outside of me, like, and I get to watch it, and I get to help mold him to being a better version of what I was. And this is the coolest process to go through. Like, and there's ups and downs in parenting. I get that, but like, man, like take it, man, and enjoy it. It's a fun ride. Dude, if I was a millionaire, I'd have more kids, dude. I would just have kids, man, and I would keep them all. And I love being a dad, bro. That's my biggest accomplishment in life, you know.
Yeah, I think that says everything right there. Somebody who has broken world records, held world records, but the biggest accomplishment and the first thing that was easy for you to say was being a dad and that kid. That's beautiful stuff, man. It really is, man. Yeah, this has
long
been
time
awesome.
coming,
This is
man.
everything I hoped it would be.
That's my fault.
Yeah, it is, but I appreciate you so much. No, well, look, I'm doing my thing here, and we struggle, building this show and the podcast, and it just, it takes a while. It just like rebuilding muscle takes a while, and the whole thing, it's a process. And most people, the thing that holds them back is they just quit. They quit before the magic happens. And there's nothing somebody can tell me that's just going to make me quit. They can make fun of the number of subscribers or whatever, but all of the great ones started out that way, and especially when you're building it from when you're nobody. It's easy when you're an NFL football player and you've been in Super Bowls and you're dating a star, maybe one of the biggest music stars in history. It's pretty easy to get 100, or, 1 million people to, subscribe. It's a lot different than doing it just from zero. Doing it from the mud, but man, I've done everything that way.
At the end of the day, too, man.
And
you understand the process, and you love the process.
Yes, it does. You have to, and I think people are going to get that from this. And to me, this has just been awesome.
Well.
I appreciate you so much, brother, and I wish you nothing but the best going forward. Thanks for being on the show today. All right, TD Smash, our guest, great interview. Check him out on Instagram. That's going to be your number one place. And make sure you hit that follow button for him. And we're out. This is the Outlaw Apostle Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Neff. I'm the fucking guy.
Whoa! Who knew I would make it this far? They hated, they never believed me. Yeah, I would never drop the ball. I know I make it look easy. Yeah, Mayweather with the defense. I don't care what a critic gotta say. I got 'em picking up the pieces. That to me, you really playing with your life. I'm about to come and run it all back. I'm the new era, about to snap back. You ain't fit